What is philosophy? Quite literally, the term philosophy means life, love, or wisdom. In a broad sense, philosophy is an activity people undertake when they seek to understand fundamental truths about themselves, the world in which they live, and their relations to the world and to each other. As an academic discipline, philosophy is much the same. Those who study philosophy are perpetually engaged in asking, answering, and arguing for their answers, most basic questions. To make such a pursuit more systematic, academic philosophy is traditionally divided into major areas of study. What is metaphysics? Metaphysics, at its core, the study of metaphysics is the study of the nature of reality, of what exists in the world, what is like, and how it is ordered. In metaphysics, philosophers wrestle with such questions as: is there a God? What is trust? What is a person? What makes a person the same through time? Is the world strictly composed of matter? Do people have minds? If so, how is the mind related to the body? Do people have free wills? What is it for one event to cause another? The next, it is epistemology. Epistemology is the study of knowledge. It is primarily concerned with what we can know about the world and how we can know it. Typical questions of concern in epistemology are: what is knowledge? Do we know anything at all? How do we know what we know? Can we just feel in claiming to know certain things? Ethics. The study of ethics often concerns what we ought to do and what it would be best to do. In struggling with this issue, large questions about what is good and right arise. So, the ethics attempts to answer such questions as: what is good? What makes actions of people good? What is right? What makes actions right? Is morality objective or subjective? How should I treat others? The next is logic. Another important aspect of the study of philosophy is the arguments or reasons given for people's answers to these questions. To this end, philosophers employ logic to study the nature and structure of arguments. Logic asks such questions as: what constitutes good or bad reasoning? How do we determine whether a given piece of reasoning is good or bad? History of philosophy. The study of philosophy involves not only forming own answers to such questions, but also seeking to understand the way in which people have answered such questions in the past. So, a significant part of philosophy is its history, a history of answers and arguments about these very questions. In studying the history of philosophy, one explores the ideas of such historical figures as Plato, Aristotle Aquinas disagrees. What often motivates the study of philosophy is not merely the answers or arguments themselves, but whether or not the arguments are good and the answers are true. Moreover, many of the questions and issues in the various areas of philosophy overlap and in some cases even converge. Thus, philosophical questions arise in almost every discipline. This is why philosophy also encompasses such areas as philosophy of law, philosophy of religion, philosophy of mind, political philosophy, philosophy of history, philosophy of feminism, philosophy of science, philosophy of literature, philosophy of the arts, philosophy of language. Historical origins of philosophy. One way to begin to understand philosophy is to look at its history. The historical origins of philosophical thinking and exploration vary around the globe. The word philosophy derives from ancient Greek, in which the philosophy is a lover of philia, Persia, of wisdom, Sophia. But the earliest Greek philosophers were not known as philosophers. They were simply known as sages. The sage tradition provides an early glimpse of philosophical thought in action. Sages are sometimes associated with mathematical and scientific discoveries, and at other times with their political impact. What unites these figures is that they demonstrate a willingness to be skeptical of traditions, a curiosity about the natural world and our place in it, and a commitment to applying reason to understand nature, human nature, and society better. The early way of the sage tradition that follows will give you a taste of philosophy's broad ambitions as well as its focus on complex relations between different areas of human knowledge. There are some examples of women who made contribution to philosophy and the sage tradition in Greece, India, and China, but these were patriarchal societies that did not provide many opportunities for women to participate in philosophical and political discussions. The sage of India, China, Africa, and Greece. In classical Indian philosophy and religions, sage plays a central role in both religious mythology and in the practice of passing down teaching and instruction through generation. The seven sages or Saptarishi, seven rishis in the Sanskrit language, play an important role in Sanatana Dharma, the internal duties that have come to be identified with Hinduism, but they that predate the establishment of the religion. Philosophers are interested in gaining the broadest possible understanding of things, whether that be nature, what is possible, morals, aesthetics, political organization, or any other field or concept. Why study philosophy? The study of philosophy enhances a person's problem-solving capacities. It helps us to analyze concepts, definitions, arguments, and problems. It contributes to our capacity to organize ideas and issues, to deal with questions of value, and to extract what is essential from large quantities of information. Epistemology looks at the roots of knowledge. Since our minds are just representation of the external world rather than perfect reflection of it, how can we know anything outside of our minds? Answering this question is the responsibility of epistemology. Like metaphysics, epistemology often overlaps with science or statistics, especially in the area of probability theory. Epistemology is the study of knowledge itself. Epistemologists ask, for instance, what criteria must be satisfied for something we believe to count as something we know, and even what it means for a proposition to be true. Logic. Logic is what kick-started mathematics, and it continues to play an important role in many disciplines. Through probability theory, logic can be formalized in a more quantitative way, and these findings have been applied to the creation of more intelligent software programs. One day, studies in logic may lead to a design for logical matching. Logic is the attempt to codify the rules of rational thought. Logicians explore the structure of arguments that preserve trust or allow the optimal extraction of knowledge from evidence. Logic is one of the primary tools philosophers use in their inquiries. The precision of logic helps them to cope with subtlety of philosophical problems and the often misleading nature of conversational language. History of philosophy. Presumably, the first philosopher thinkers conducted their inquiries through reason and observation rather than through tradition or revelation. These thinkers were the first philosophers. Also, the picture is admittedly simplistic. The basic destination has stuck. Philosophy in its most primeval form is considered nothing less than circular inquiry itself. However, there are now many forms of secular inquiry, so what distinguishes philosophy from them? In the beginning, there was perhaps no distinction, but as civilization advanced, two parts of philosophy became so powerful in their own right that they separated off, claiming for themselves the status of independent disciplines. Mathematics was the first and split off very early in the game. Science, or natural philosophy as it was called even into the 19th century, was the second splitting of much later. To modern philosophy is left whatever question these two disciplines cannot solve, at least at the given time, including not only questions that are traditionally thought to be beyond the two, for example, what is the meaning of life, but also theoretical questions at their fringes. For example, can natural selection operate at the species level? And conceptual question at their foundation. For example, what is science? Philosophy, of course, is the best known for the first class of questions, which includes some of the most difficult and important questions there are, such as whether or not there is a good, how one can know anything at all, and how a person ought to live. Philosophy is characterized as much by its methods and by its subject matter. Also, philosophers deal with speculative issues that generally are not subject to investigation through experimental tests, and philosophy therefore is more fully conceptual than science. Philosophers, just like scientists, formulate hypotheses which ultimately must answer to reason and evidence. This is one of the things that differentiate philosophy from poetry and mysticism, despite its not being the science.